Let's learn how to play the GoVenture CEO business simulation. So if this is the first time we're playing, we will have already created our username and password and logged in and launched the simulation. We then have to enter the simulation number provided to us by our instructor and choose Join New Simulation. We only have to enter this number one time. Here we can confirm the simulation number that we want to play. We can also see who's on our team. So in this simulation, we may be running a business individually on our own, or we may be on a team with other colleagues or classmates running the same business. And as our teammates join the simulation, they will appear here. We can also see the competitors. So the competitors are usually other classmates that we're competing with in the same simulation competition. So we'd all be running the same type of business, but competing for the same customers. And our competitors will appear as they begin to join the simulation competition. Once they join the first time, they will always appear here. But keep in mind, if this is the first time you're playing, not everyone may have joined at the same time. So some new competitors may appear a little bit later. Let's click play to continue. So this is the main interface of the simulation. So we're going to be running a business. We're going to be making decisions for that business. In most cases, we may be producing or manufacturing a product or offering a service and selling that product or service to customers. Now, GoVenture CEO is very customizable. So the product that we're selling, the industry that we're in, the budget that we have available will all be different based on the settings that your instructor has chosen for you. And so in my case, we're going to be playing a particular type of simulation. Your interface will look the same as mine, but there will be some differences. Now, the main interface that we can see here allows us to navigate the different areas of our business, starting with company, management, production, research and development, sales, marketing, human resources, customers and competitors, and finance. And we can use this menu to navigate the different areas of our business. We also have the same menu at the bottom here, which allows us a quicker ability to navigate from screen to screen. Now, you can actually jump to any particular screen. There's no particular order that you have to follow, but you will notice that there will be a natural progression based on the decisions that you need to make. So let's go in and start with the company screen. So here on the company screen, we have to choose a name and a logo for our business. But we don't yet know what business we're running, so I'm going to hold off on doing that for a moment. I can also see the scoring methods. So this is how I'm going to be compared with other businesses that I'm competing with. So in this case, it says share price. Share price is a common scoring metric. Another is net profit. There are others as well, but you're most likely going to see net profit or share price here. Now keep in mind, this is how you're going to be compared with other businesses. Your grade or your assessment, if you're taking this as part of a course, may be different than what you see here. It may actually involve more variables and more assessment options than you see here, and that would be provided to you by your instructor. At the bottom box here, we can see the simulation details and what's called the decision deadline. We'll talk about that in a moment. So on the right-hand side is our management team and objectives. So here, again, I can see myself and any teammates that have joined the simulation with me if I'm playing on a team, and I can read the backstory. So this is very important to understand what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's telling me here that I'm the CEO of a specialty furniture manufacturer making home office desks. And our goal is to generate the highest share price possible, and we begin by selling our products in the domestic territory, but then we can expand into other territories. So we can take a moment and read the details here, including our budget and other options that are available to us. But based on that information, I'm going to now choose a name and logo for my business. So I'm going to call my business Best Desks. Now I can set my name of my business in the first period, but once I set my name, I won't be able to change it later on, and then I can choose a logo for my business. We'll choose this one here. All right, so now let's take a look at the rest of the interface. In the bottom corner, something's very important. We see year 1 of 8. So the way GoVenture CEO works, we're manufacturing, we're making a product or service, we're selling it, and we're making decisions about our business to do that. The simulation stops or pauses at the beginning of each business period to allow us to make those decisions. So in my case, the business period is years, and we have 8 years of a simulation that we can play. Your simulation might be different. Your period might be months or quarters or weeks. And the number of periods you're going to play could be different as well. But in this case, we all start in the first period, and we all have an opportunity to make decisions. Now, how much time do we have to make our decisions is based on a schedule set by your instructor or simulation manager. In my case, I can see that decision deadline is December 31st at 7 a.m. UTC. So I have to make and save my decisions for year one by that time. It's very important I do not miss that time, because if I do, I cannot go back. I will miss a period. And that's because everybody that I'm competing with in the same simulation competition, usually my classmates or colleagues, we're all on the same schedule. So if one person misses, you can't roll back the simulation for everybody. So it's very important that you follow the schedule. And the schedule is set by your instructor. There may be other methods of advancing the simulation where the instructor might choose to click a button to advance the simulation on a different time, but your instructor will inform you of those differences. Now, it's also very important to note the time zone here is UTC, that's Universal Coordinated Time. And that is not the same as your local time zone. The reason UTC used, it's a global time reference that doesn't have to worry about daylight savings times and other differences between time zones. So what you want to do is you want to Google your time zone and UTC time to see what the time difference is. And you may want to do it frequently in case you have daylight savings changes, events like that. Okay, so keeping in mind, we're going to be making and selling a home office desk. One of the things we should do first is look at our market overview, which is right here. And this is a report. It's one of many reports available in GoVenture CO that gives us insight into the market and how we should make better decisions. So I can see that the average market demand is how much money consumers are spending on home office desks in this particular simulation competition. The average is 1 million per year per company. So I'm only one company. If I'm competing with 9 other companies for a total of 10 companies, the total market demand would actually be 10 million. So this is just an average share. Now keep in mind, this is not what I've earned or what I've won. There is no history when you start a simulation in GoVenture CO. There is no past history or past sales. Everybody starts in the same place. And this just gives me an idea of if I made average decisions and everything was average, I might generate about $1 million in revenue. And so that's important to help me price my product and make other decisions. I can also see the population percentage. So the simulation has consumers, and their consumers have different profiles. And there are different groups of consumers. So I can see in this simulation there are 4 groups of consumers that are profiled differently. There could be actually up to 10 in your simulation or fewer. And in this case, again, there's 4. And I can see that group 3 is about 30% of the population if I roll over the pie chart. Group 2 is the largest at 40%, and then groups 4 and 1 are a little bit smaller than those. That helps me understand who's spending money and how they're spending it. And then I can look at what's called the consumer psychographics. So this chart shows the consumer psychographics of the consumer groups in the market. The consumer psychographics identify the factors that influence how a consumer makes a purchase decision. And I can see in this simulation there are 5 factors: price, brand, the composition, which is what the desk is made of, and the size and the features. And I can see by the majority of the consumers, they're very worried about price. They're also worried about brand and somewhat worried about features, composition, and size is the least important factor of the majority of the consumers. I can also see the features that are attractive to most consumers. In this case here, I can see that a utility desk is the most desirable feature. Modern design is also desirable. For gaming is somewhat desirable, and no preference is a smaller percentage of the consumers. And so I can differentiate my products in various ways, and I can watch videos to help gain further insight into how I should strategize for my business. Let's go back to the simulation. So that gives us some insight into the consumers and how much money they're spending and what type of desks they may want. Now keep in mind that if I'm competing with other businesses, we can all customize our desks in different ways and target different consumers. So you may want to target consumers that have certain preference over others. Let's move on to the management screen. Here on the management screen, we can see what our budget is. So budget is the amount of money we have available to invest in our business. And I can see in this case, my budget is $750,000, and that's for the current period, which is year one, $750,000 in year one. And then I can start allocating budget to different areas of my business. For example, I can click on this and just give me some ideas of where I can allocate my budget. Now there's a few options here as well. So we have a what if calculator that allows us to do some forecasting, so we can plug some numbers in, see what the results might be. Now keep in mind, this what if calculator does not affect the simulation anyway. This is simply a calculator for planning purposes. We also have a strategy journal. Now strategy journal may be required or optional, and you'll see the little tags here that suggest whether they're required or optional. And what it does is helps put some structure to your strategic thinking. So it helps you identify what your objectives are at the beginning of each period of the simulation. You do that by clicking on each of the boxes and identifying your objective. For example, in year one, what is my objective? Is it to generate a lot of revenue? Is it to generate a lot of profit? Or maybe I just want to get a lot of market share by units sold. I want to get as many units out there as possible, and maybe I might be willing to have a below average price to do that. So there's no right or wrong here. It's really about what your strategy is, and this has no direct effect on the simulation. It's really to help you think about strategy. But what's important to note is that if you complete this, there's a coaching report that's available to you that will identify whether you are adhering to your strategy or not. And that'll help you identify if your strategy is working as well as you expect it or not. There's also a free-form notes area or a journal function where you can type notes and post them here. If you're on a team, each time a team member posts a note, it will timestamp it and stamp it with the name of the team member who posted. So it allows you an asynchronous or non-real-time way of collaborating with your teammates. If you want a real-time way to collaborate, you may want to use an external chat or other tool. So that's our strategy journal. We also have an ethics module. Now again, this may or may not be visible on your particular simulation, but if it is, what you have to do is you have to identify your ethics. Are you going to run a business with strong ethics or weak ethics or somewhere in between? Now based on your setting, you'll notice some things are changing in terms of operating costs, probability of lawsuits, and effect on brand, and so on. So these factors will change over time based on your level of ethics. So that was our management screen. Now let's go to production and distribution. So here we're going to identify the price of our desks, and we can enter that price here. We can change the price every period of the simulation if we like and experiment with different pricing. But this is where we would enter the price of our desk. By the way, you'll notice there's orange question mark buttons are available throughout the simulation, and by clicking those, you'll find more information that's very helpful for you in terms of identifying what all of the choices are. I'll also notice here that there's a dealer discount of 20%. That means the person or the organization that is helping me resell this product is getting a 20% margin on my 150. So when the product retail selling price is 150, that means that's what the consumer is paying for the product. I'm not going to get 150. I'm going to get 150 minus the 20%. So I'm only netting $120 in revenue per sale. In the production and distribution box, I have to identify how many desks I think I'm going to sell this year. And I would enter that information in this box. And what I want to do here is I want to forecast exactly how many desks I think I'm going to sell. I don't want to manufacture more desks than I'm going to sell, because that has other costs and issues associated with it, which you'll see here, like inventory carrying costs and so on, and it also ties up my cash. I also don't want to manufacture too few desks, because then I might miss out on sales, where consumers want my desk, but I've run out of inventory. So this is a very difficult decision, and the what if calculator we looked at earlier can help us do some of that forecasting. The market reports that we looked at earlier can also help us identify how many desks we think we might be able to sell and at what price. I'm going to enter 7,000 here for now. And you'll notice the total costs are automatically calculated. And I have to keep in mind of what my budget is, so I can use my smartphone to help with that, because there's a little budget app icon here. And you can see as I'm spending money, the remaining budget will appear in the list. So that's what we're going to enter here for production distribution. Let's move on to research and development. So research and development allows us to differentiate our product or our desk in the marketplace, keeping in mind that there are other businesses competing with us, and they'll also be making decisions here as well. And none of us are going to be able to be the best at everything. So we have to identify which type of consumers do we want to go after the most. So I can see here, style is one way I can differentiate my desks, size of the desk, composition of the desk, features of the desk, and so on. So by default, everybody starts with the same settings. In this case, I have utility, very small particle board. Maybe I want to make a medium-sized desk, but notice if I choose a medium-sized desk, there might be costs associated with switching, retooling, and other costs associated with switching to that medium-sized desk. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I can also change what it's made of. So particle board tends to be cheaper materials, but maybe I want to do hardwood, which will again increase the cost and the value of the desk. So there's a variety of choices I can make here to differentiate my product in the marketplace. And again, if I'm not sure of what these choices are, we've got a little question mark, help buttons. You can click to find out more detail. Let's move on to sales and marketing. So in sales and marketing, we identify the territories that we want to sell into and how much money we want to spend on promoting our products or services and building our brand and our brand equity. And here, everybody I'm competing with starts in the domestic territory, or it might be named something different for you. So all the territories, they could be named by countries or continents or cities or regions. It could be very different based on your particular simulation. But in my case, I have a domestic territory and then 2 expansion territories. And by default, all of my desks are being distributed in the domestic territory. I'm not distributing in the other 2 territories. And your simulation will be similar in that you won't necessarily be expanding in other territories unless you choose to do so. So I can choose to distribute maybe in a second territory, keeping in mind there may be costs associated with doing so. When I do make that decision, I'm able to choose how many of my desks I want to distribute to each territory. The boxes on the left, the overlays on the left, allow me to monitor how much money I'm spending in sales and marketing in each area, how much I'm distributing in each area, and my overall brand equity in each territory or region. In the Sales and Marketing tab, this is where I can identify how much money I want to invest in sales and marketing. I can also apply a discount and promote that discount in order to increase my sales. In the box on the right, I can see my sales and marketing history. Now, since I'm just starting the simulation, there is no history, but as I keep playing, I'll be able to see and compare how much money I'm spending. Then we can move on to advertising. If the advertising module is enabled in your simulation, you'll see something similar to this, where you would choose the territory, and each territory that you're selling into, you would actually set the advertising options separately. And then you can see different advertising options, and what you would do is you have to set how much of your marketing money is going to go to each type of advertising option or media. And it has to total 100%. As you see here, you cannot leave the screen unless you distribute your marketing dollars 100% based on the media that you choose. And the simulation will track your effectiveness on spending that money. And you'll have to experiment to try to figure out how to maximize that effectiveness. So that's sales and marketing. Then we can move on to HR. Now, as we make decisions and invest money in different areas of our business, so you can see on our phone where we're allocating our budget, the number of employees we need in each area of the business will start to increase. So with GoVenture CEO, we're not managing individual employees. Instead, we have 5 departments. So production, research and development, sales, marketing, operations, and management. And the system tells us how many people we have employed. And again, since we're a new business, we don't have anyone employed yet. And how many employees we need. So this is telling me that I need 2 production employees. Oh, and look, already I've run into some trouble because I do not have enough money to hire my employees. So I have to go back to one of my other areas and reduce some of the costs that I'm spending. So for example, I probably should reduce the number of desks I'm going to manufacture to 2,000. And then now let's go back to HR. So that frees up some of my money. And remember, the decisions are not locked in yet. They won't be locked in until the decision deadline. So I can come in here, make decisions, change decisions as often as I want up until that decision deadline. Once that decision deadline hits, then I can't change anything. Everything is locked in. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to adjust to how many employees I need. And notice the numbers have changed as well. So I actually need fewer employees. And that's because I'm not manufacturing as much as I had said previously. You can always have more employees, although it may not make sense because you're spending extra money that you don't necessarily need or have. And in fact, I'm running out of money again, but I'm able to hire all of these employees, so that's good. Now, there's a few other things I can do here. I can look at benefits and other incentives, and right now I'm not investing any money in benefits and programs for my employees. And what I can do is if I want to improve the compensation package of my employees, I can add various benefits that you see here simply by checking check boxes on or off, and that will provide those benefits to my employees. On the main screen here, I can see what the salaries are of my employees. So in the production department, the current salary I can see, this is set by default at the beginning of the simulation, is $60,000, and that's by the period. So that's $60,000, and my period is 1 year. If your period was monthly, that would be the monthly salary. And that doesn't include benefits or training or anything else. That's the base salary. Now, I can change that salary by using the buttons here if I want to increase or decrease the salary. The salaries and overall compensation package is actually competitive with the other businesses that you're competing with in the simulation competition. So if you have a better compensation package than the other businesses, you will find that your turnover rate might be lower. Turnover meaning how many employees leave your business every period. The turnover rate will be lower for your business than others if you treat your employees better. And low turnover has a lot of benefits, including the fact that you don't have to hire and retrain new employees all the time, and you don't have to worry about severance costs as much. Now, every business is going to have some turnover, so what you have to do is just try to manage to minimize that in terms of improving your profitability and so on. Now, you can also train employees to improve their productivity and other metrics. And you can do that by following the directions on the screen and investing money in training each department of employees that you have. And the simulation will track various metrics that you see along the top, like morale, productivity, turnover rate, and HR score. And again, you can view help to find out more details about these various metrics that you're tracked with. Okay, moving on to customers and competitors. So here we have access to various reports. And some of the reports may be free or others may cost money. So you can see if I want to buy this report, I have to pay $5,000 out of my budget for that report. In fact, I can see I don't even have enough money to do that with my current settings. But the reports can be very helpful, so you should really consider when and how to buy those reports. In fact, the market overview report, which was a free report that we looked at previously, there's actually more details in the consumer profile reports here. So I can pay to get more details than what was available in the free reports. As I buy reports, they will appear here in my available window. Now keep in mind that report data gets old. So if I buy a report now in year 1, by year 2, year 3, some of that data is not going to be updated. I have to buy the report again if I want to get updated data. And then we have the finance area of the simulation, and here we have access to various financial reports. So these are financial reports of our own business. These are all free, so we have balance sheets, profit and loss or income statements, and a variety of other reports that makes it easier for us to understand how our business is doing financially and how well our decisions are working out for us. In your simulation, you may or may not have the option of loans and stocks. Loans allow you to borrow money, which increases your budget, so you can be more aggressive in your business than your budget might have allowed. Stocks allow you to raise money by selling shares or equity in your business, also raising money to be more aggressive with your budget. So these are two options that may or may not be available in your business. So we've just completed one period in terms of making the decisions. We can go back and adjust things. So if we want to have some more money available to pay our employees, we can reduce our production or our R&D or other decisions like that. But before we quit, what we need to do is we need to save our simulation. Very important that you save. So remember, you have to save before the decision deadline, and you can save as often as you want. Now, when I first come in here, I can see that the simulation has not been saved. And what I can do now is I can click the Save Now button. And if the save is successful, you will see a message that confirms that. Very important that you look for the success message. Sometimes you'll get a message that'll tell you that the save was not successful. The save may not be successful if you are missing some key decisions. For example, if your strategy journal is required but you have not completed it, or if you needed a certain number of employees but you didn't hire the minimum required, the simulation will not save your decisions. You'll get a message warning you that your decisions are not saved because you have to go back and make some adjustments before you can save your decisions. I can see now I've got a green save message, so I'm good to go, and I can see when the decision deadline and everything else that's going to come. So now I can log out of the simulation knowing that my decisions have been locked in. I can relog into the simulation anytime to change those decisions if I want, again, as often as I want up until the decision deadline. I can also access other features like calling one of my VPs. So as you navigate to different areas of the business, for example, as I navigate to products, I have a VP of products or a VP of operations, and I can call them by clicking the call button and ask for advice. And these are just virtual characters that can give us advice along the way. We also have a text messaging system where you'll get messages or events happening in the simulation. You can also post messages for other players to see, almost like think of it like posting a news release or other information. This is a one-to-everyone message, so in other words, everyone's going to see the messages that you post here, including your instructors, so you want to be careful to make sure that the messages are appropriate for everyone. And you can review your performance here as well. Now, since we've just started the simulation, we don't have any performance data, but when the decision deadline comes, the data results will be created, and I can log back in and see my results, and we'll look at that in a moment. You'll also see these icons. These are achievements that we can earn every period of the simulation. They're explained in more detail in the performance report, which we'll look at in a moment. And then finally, we have a language selector. So you can use that to change the language of the interface. And this uses machine translation. So the translation is not perfect, but it can be very helpful if English is not your first language. So what we're going to do now is we can log out. So we can click on menu and stop playing this particular simulation. And then when the decision deadline comes, the simulation will advance. It'll take my decisions and everybody else's decisions that I'm competing with and crunch them together and determine the results. So the next time I log in, we're going to see results. Okay, so the simulation has advanced. Let's go and play. After the decision deadline has passed, you'll be able to log in and see your results. So let's join the same simulation again. And we can see a message now that the simulation has advanced to the next period. And we'll be able to view the results under the news icon or app on the smartphone. And this will tell us who had the most profit and most revenue for the period, but then it guides us to our performance report, which is here, always available on our smartphone. The performance report shows us charts and graphs of how we did, and it compares our metrics to everyone else that we're competing with: revenue, profit, market share, achievements, inventory. Everything you need to know about your business is available in this report. And you should use it and assess it and analyze it closely to get better prepared for making decisions in the next period. So my simulation has now advanced to year 2. It's paused at the beginning of year 2 with a new budget. My budget is now reset, and I can now allocate that budget to different areas of my business. Now, some other things you should notice in the performance report: we have our advisors that are going to give us advice. We should read that advice every period, see what they say. We also have access to a coaching report. The coaching report assesses our strategy and gives us really great advice as well in terms of understanding how our simulation is working out for us, or our business decisions are working out for us. We also have access to a rubric report. So the rubric report is often how your instructor is going to assess you, and so you can monitor what some of that assessment is in real time while you play the simulation. So the simulation now, you can see at the bottom, it's now year 2. It has reset. I have a new decision deadline for year 2, so I have to make sure I make and save my decisions for year 2 before that decision deadline. And I can navigate the simulation using the same buttons as before, adjusting and making my decisions as I go along and try to improve the success of my business. So that's GoVenture CEO. There are more videos and user guides available for you to learn more about the intricacies of the simulation, and the help inside the simulation can also help you with that as well. I encourage you to look at all of those resources so you can improve your results. And good luck and go venture.